Welcome to another episode of the Choose Your Soul Show. We are your hosts. My name's Hakeem,
My name is Alyssa.
and we are passionate about providing resources and perspective to help you choose yourself and strengthen your soul. Now, when a life is taken by another, we call it homicide, and we blame the killer. When a life is taken by its owner, we call it suicide, and the blame is placed on everything but the killer. And today's episode is dedicated to why that is. We live in a world today where we say, don't judge. They're living their life. It's their choice. We post it, we preach it, we pretend it's compassion. Let them cope how they cope. Let them be. Everyone's fighting their own battle until they take their own life. And then suddenly the conversation shifts. We stop giving them ownership and we start handing out blame or mystery. We say, if only someone had known. They had so much to live for. Why didn't they speak up? The truth is they probably did. But we confuse pain with attention seeking. We confuse silence with strength. We confuse coping mechanisms with healing. This is why conversations like today's matter, because real healing doesn't start with pretending. It starts with listening and witnessing and holding space for the pain that hasn't had a voice until now. And today, we're not just raising awareness, y'all. We're raising consciousness. And Brett Cotter is here to guide us through it. What's up, man?
Thank you both so much for having me today. It's a true honor to be here with you, and I'm just so excited to dive into this subject and tackle it with you.
Yes, it's super important. And I have been friends with Brett for a while now, and he has an amazing background, has been helping people, thousands of people for the last 25 years with suicide prevention and stress relief and overcoming anxiety and stress and overwhelm and inner pain. And so you offer a bunch of different coaching tools for anyone listening to this. We'll link his website in the show notes below. So you offer different things from master classes to different certifications and retreats. And so all that information will be below. And you have a really unique system when it comes to helping people with stress relief, and it reaches deep into the people's souls, right? And so why don't you help tell us about what led you to this path and what fuels your passion for this work?
Yeah, so what led me to it is my own pain. I went through a spiritual awakening when I was 27. I was working in sales for 3 years leading up to that. I finally reached, like the goal that the inner city kid had back then, which was like getting to 6 figures, having the girlfriend, having the car, having the job, having the house, right? So I had all those things, and then something just felt empty. I was like I felt like I got to the peak of the mountaintop, and then it didn't feel right. So then I took a meditation class, and then I realized I had a pattern that started when I was 15 with all my girlfriends, and it was around the 18-month mark in our relationship. I would get really jealous, and the jealous teeth would just come out and, like, ruin the relationship. So when I was 20
Hold up. That's me, yo. That was me in my 20s. Damn, I never heard somebody else say that. Uh-oh, I'm ready for this.
team, I wanna hear from you. Dive in any point, okay? Because this is what happened to me. I was meditating, I realized that I had this pattern. I was looking back on all my relationships, and it was like the same pattern, and then I didn't wanna ruin the relationship I was in. I was in love again, and the jealousy was coming out, and a crazy sequence of events referred me to a spiritual healer in Sedona, Arizona. I drove out from California to see him that weekend. I sat down with this guy for 90 minutes. In the first 5 minutes, a cellular memory surfaced from my body of when I was 5 years old. I was watching my father and mother argue. It was the exact same way I argued with all my girlfriends, okay? In this memory, my mother was yelling wildly with her arms going. My father was grinding his teeth and clenching his fists, right? And yelling. And that was like the actual blueprint of how I argued with all my exes. And I was just sitting there like, wow. And once the jealousy surfaced, I felt it. Like I felt it in every part of my body. And then it released. And then the anger and rage came up underneath it. And then once the anger and rage released, the sadness came up. And when the sadness released, the fear of abandonment came up from when my parents divorced when I was 6 and I lost my relationship with my father. And when that released in that 90-minute session, when I came out of that, jealousy never ruined another relationship in my life because we got to the source of the issue. And ever since that day in June of 1999, I've been a moth to a flame to this work, getting to understand how this energy transference happens, how the healing happens through unconditional self-love, and then also how to quickly surface the core trauma from the depths of the subconscious and where it's lodged in the body. That could be in your heart, your bladder, your kidneys, your colon, it could be anywhere. So that's really, what got me into this work, my own pain, and then a miraculous experience when I was in that first session. I learned from that healer for a few years. I learned from a Shaolin grandmaster from China. I learned from Vianna Stiebel, who's the founder of Theta Healing, and a number of other, people that I was really lucky to come across. And that whole spiritual awakening was like from 1999 to 2001. And right at that point, I started coaching other people and got thrust into position to start leading groups. And that's how I kind of got my start.
Damn, I just said today on a live, I was like, all in my 20s, I had 6 serious relationships. And at the 18-month mark, I always sabotaged it. And it came from insecurities, jealousy, anger. And then I would somehow depart. And like you were saying, I guess it was abandonment, but I would always latch on to another one. And they was all fine, y'all, okay? So don't get it twisted. I wasn't thirsty, all right? They was all fine. But I think there was something damaged in both of us for them to allow me, who was in that state, into their life and then really fall into that deep love first. And then, at 18 months, it was like, I was scared to be alone, but I was scared to commit. Scared to be alone, scared to commit. And so that was the norm. And then it was until that experience that allowed you to see what you were doing in the past, right? Or did you catch it in the moment?
It allowed me to get to the source of the issue, right? And then when I was in relationship, jealousy would come up, but I would catch it before it hit my behavior. So I would feel it like a twinge in my heart, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay." And then I was like, "Okay, that's just a chance for me to love that tension and that pain, that fear." And it's like it was a combination. Underneath it all was a fear of abandonment, but it's like a fear of intimacy, fear of being alone, a fear of truly being loved. You know what I mean? It's all like a fear of being vulnerable, you know? Yeah. So it was all kind of like moshed together, but it would all come up at the 18-month mark. And that card at the bottom of the house of cards was the fear of abandonment. And when you pull it, everything just starts to drop like dominoes.
Yeah. Really crazy when you get into that awareness. It's all about the awareness and understanding where it comes from and where it stems from, because then you're able to fix it or have the awareness to stop it before you ruin something else in the future, and you can move forward and look for people and actually step into that intimacy and step into that relationship with love, like you said, looking at it with love. I think that's such an important statement. But now, so you have helped Fortune 500 companies, hospitals, schools, nonprofits, military bases, disaster sites now with all this work that you've been doing. And like I said earlier, your approach reaches deep into the soul. So can you share a moment when you witnessed a profound transformation in someone that you've worked with, helping them through this?
I mean, we could do a week of podcasts on this because the first one-on-one coaching session that I did with somebody else, the person was a kidnapping victim.
Ooh.
And that was like my real entryway to working with someone else. And the way she referred to a higher power was Christ. We called Christ into the memory as all the emotions are coming up. And Christ was with her from the start of the memory, repatterning the emotional energy inside the memory from when the kidnapping first happened. And it was like a 5-day experience. And it was just through the whole day, then going to sleep, waking up, how she woke up, going through the next day. And that was a long session. That was probably 2.5 hours, but that was a mystical, magical experience where I just totally let go, let the energy come through me. And that was really the first time that I was face to face with such a core, deep trauma and just surrendered to the process and allowed the coaching to just come through me. What I found is when you surface the core issue from someone's subconscious, the universe has been waiting for us to get to this stuff because it's so rare. I mean, we could be in therapy for 10 years and we never get to that moment. But the universe has been waiting for us to get there. When the core issues on the table, all the panic and fears on the surface, we're feeling it all. And then when we call upon our higher power, not my higher power, but your higher power, right? It's all about the individual's higher power. And when we call that in, they receive that into the trauma, that's when all the pain starts to unlock and release and melt down from the inside out. And there's been multiple times. There was, I think in 2004, this was the second time I was working with someone that was suicidal. We were face to face. I heard like, have you ever dropped like a light bulb on the floor and it's like pop? I felt a pop in the center of my brain, and then everything I saw was in golden light. And it was like a pop and like a sizzle. So I don't know if you ever had those things like Pop Rocks. It was a candy when we were kids. Oh, when I was a kid anyway. And it
Yeah.
sizzled.
Yeah. I had white friends. My white friends used to snort them things.
Ah.
For real. White friends crazy, bro.
Just gonna say, so once in a while, the crazy kid would take those Pop Rocks, put the whole box in his mouth, and then chug some soda.
My goodness.
So, yes. So, we just had nothing better to do. We were doing stupid stuff all day long. But getting back to the story, it felt like somebody dropped a light bulb. It went pop in the center of my brain. And then it was like a quick sizzle, like those Pop Rocks in the center of my brain. And everything I saw was now golden light. And we were actually on my mother's front porch. This was with a guy that I grew up with. And I saw the porch turn into light. This big tree on the front yard turn into light. All the cars parked on the street turn into light. This is in Queens. And then I just surrendered to the process. I saw his eyes get really big. And then when we were done with the coaching session, when we were starting to come back, and then I saw the cars turn normal, the tree turn normal, it stopped being made out of golden light, the porch changed back to the way it was originally. And I said, "What happened for you?" And he said he saw light coming out of my throat. And then he just sat back and he said, "I want more, more." And then he was next to a stream and he said he was walking with Jesus hand in hand. And he was just telling him that it was going to be okay. And he said it was in like this, just like a garden. He was like next to a garden in a natural environment, next to a stream, like a brook. And he was just walking with him. And then we went to Croshawn Park, which is a park that I grew up in. And we just chilled out on the grass and like looked at the trees and watched the leaves blow in the trees and watched the sunlight reflect off of it. And we just chilled for like an hour. And, another session was a woman that lost her son to suicide, a military veteran. She was raised by her grandparents. About 20 minutes into the session, I started feeling her son coming in really strong, started hearing his voice, hearing words. I started letting that come through. And then she felt him there in the room. And then she felt her two grandparents. And she laid after the session for about 4 hours. She didn't want to move because it was so comforting and loving. And then after another session with her, she felt her son with her the entire day, even when she went food shopping and she was going about her day in the car and everything. So this work, in a nutshell, when we open up our heart again and we release the pain and the fear from the body, we start to feel and become perceptive of the finer frequencies and energies of existence. So we're locked in the third and fourth dimension here. It's kind of tight, it's kind of clunky, but our relatives are right there, but in a higher frequency, whatever that is, let's say fifth, sixth, seventh. And our senses are just meant for the third and fourth. But when you open the heart and you let go of the pain, a lot of the programming leaves you and you start to dial into that unconditional love energy that's universal and that's eternal. And that's when we could start to hear them with our inner ear. We could start to feel their presence right around us. So that's kind of like a really cool byproduct of doing this work. As we're letting go of the emotional pain, we just become more sensitive and more open to the part of us that's one with everything.
Damn. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of science techniques and healing that talk about the conscious expansion to where you tap into another realm. And then when you come back to this realm, you just see it differently. And some people go into like massive depression from that, especially like people who go to festivals and, be taking psychedelics and they experience life in this vibrant and colorful world. And now you can't deal with the regular world the same way because you understand, oh, I'm in the matrix. Oh, this is some bullshit. I can't tap back into that, expansive thought process. How would you, have you ever dealt with somebody that went through that where they come back and now they're like, give me more, like the other dude said?
Yeah. So you bring up a great point. And I feel like psychedelics, if they're used in the proper way, they could be very powerful, right? There's God gifted this planet with some amazing shamans that come from long lineages of this,
Mm-hmm.
of using certain plant medicine. What we talk about is finding refuge and respite, right? That comfort. When you get below all the pain, and you're kind of buoyant in the support of the universe and you feel the unconditional love bubbling up from deep inside of you, it only works when the tree trunk of support is being built from inside of you. So in this work, we're building a new structure, a new foundation inside of you, right? And when you feel it open up from within you, that's when you have that strength, love, and self-compassion forever. And you can kind of rely on it when the stuff you see in the external reality is getting a little dicey, right? And sometimes we have to really stop, pause, and see, okay, am I steering my ship into this? Right. We joke around about when we're in the retreat, we just finished an amazing women's retreat and getting back to life, getting back to our families, our jobs, our friends, our communities, the news, right? And it's like seeing it through a different lens and focusing on what is in here and what you want. What you want should be the guiding light of your life. What do I want? And I go back to like how when I watch CEOs in boardrooms and stuff, and then when there's a big meeting with like 20 something VPs in it, each one of those people are very good with knowing what they want for their department and they go for it, right? So we have to be in touch with what we want. And I go back to thinking of a dog in the backyard who knows where the bone is or who just remembered where their bone is across the yard. If you've ever been with a dog in the backyard and they bury the bone, they get happy when they remember the bone is 20 feet away. The tail goes right up, it starts wagging, and they run over to it, they dig it up. So just the memory and the mental focus of what we want gets us more positive again, right? When we focus on what we want. Forget about the whole worthiness of can I have it and stuff like that. It's getting really in touch and in tune with what do I want. And then once you have that, the brain starts to do more and more to bring that to you as long as you're playing ball. When the universe gives you some inspiration, you take another step forward. And then now it's like the universe is like, okay, I got a player. I got a player on my hands. I'm going to play ball with this person. And now you're kind of like being mentored to live an inspired and a genuine and authentic life. But going back, I feel like the key is the pathway that Stephanie and I have laid out, right? For now, how to integrate this kind of work into your life. So we created a membership where we teach in it for 30 minutes every day at 9 a.m. Eastern. And that's all of our members for $15 a month. That's 25 live sessions with us a month. There's nothing like this that I ever heard of on the freaking planet. Okay. We know a lot of teachers that are doing like $99 a month. It's like one live, right? Or even more than that, one live a week or one live a month. We are out there every day on Zoom with our folks, with our Stress Is Gone family members, just laying out more pavement on the bumpy road every day in the moment. And in the moment, when you get good at laying out the pavement, right? The pavement is the touch, the breath, breathing deep and slow, and then the mantra, okay. And that starts to lay out the pavement when the road gets bumpy, right? So you can take the next step. So really it's the healing in the coaching sessions and the retreats, and then it's diving into the membership, making this a normal part of your life. And that's when everything starts to smooth out, but it has to be a part of your day because all you are is a reflection of how you spend your time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. Hey, that's consistency then. You got to tap into that
Weird
dream.
habits.
You got to tap into that dream. Otherwise, your environment will trigger you back into the old version every time. And it don't matter if you just went on a retreat or if you just went on a talk or you just heard some crazy news story or you just took some psychedelics. If you don't revisit that phase and really dissect what that was and tap into it, like you said, mentally, emotionally, envision it and identify what character that is. Who am I when I'm under that understanding, when I'm under that perception, then eventually you dwindle back into society. And society does a really good job of keeping you down in that shit. That's the whole point of overloaded consumption, from your screen to the food, to your clothes, to the biggest car, to the next job. But you're chasing that if you don't tap in with yourself every day. That's for sure. That's what it means to choose yourself.
You brought up the biggest component, right? And for me, it's not only what do I want, but why. When you understand why you want that thing, often the why is more important than the thing that you want.
Yeah. I always tell people, like, decide what you want, know your vision, and then go 5 layers deep. Like, why do you want it? Okay, you want a new car because it's a good form of transportation, but why okay, then what? Like, because you're gonna feel comfortable. Okay, why do you want to feel comfortable? And then you're like, because I want to feel validation. And it goes down into your feelings, essentially. Like, you want a certain feeling is why you want something. And what is that feeling? And how can you cultivate it every day?
Right.
And
And if you go back to my 25-year-old self, right? I wanted a really awesome sports car. Why did I want that? Because I want to attract a really hot girl. Why do I want that? Right? Oh, I wanted the feeling that I have when I'm with someone like that. Why? Well, I feel good about myself. So what do I really want? Well, I want to feel good
right.
about myself. And now I'm getting into like, I could just give that to myself. Then it's going down that road. And it's like, it cuts all this other activity and waste of time. And it gets you right to the point of what you want. And then it's easier to get on purpose because life is a huge distraction. Just like you were
Just
saying,
hey,
Hakeem, about society. You walk out there and all of a sudden you're going out with the tide. The tide pulls you out, the stressful tide, and you're like disconnected again.
hey, and that part can feel lonely. That
Hmm.
part right there. Because you go out and you're like, nah, I don't want all that. Because your mind is telling you, yeah, you do, especially in the very beginning. Because there's myelin and neural pathways and all kind of things of years of habituality and what your mama said, your daddy said, and you done put 10 years into this job title and, oh, I can't believe I'm letting this go. Someone else is going to take my shit. All this. And then you start to break free. Now you don't shop in the same aisle. Now you ain't part of the same communities. Now you don't watch the same TV shows. Now you don't even like the way your shoes fit because you know feet are important. Now you got to make time for nature. Now you got to do all these adjustments and you're like, I'm new to this. But if you revisit every day to who you are, then that's what you rely on in times of uncertainty, in times of unfamiliarity, because it don't matter what you do in the interview. It don't stop you from getting fired if you didn't do the work to develop the traits to be able to capitalize or fulfill the job description. And that's just a metaphor for life. You can put up the facade, you can act like you fucking know, but if you don't do the work every day, eventually you're gonna be caught right back up in the cycle. And I've been there
Hmm.
for sure. It's tough, man. Been there a couple times. And now, I still do. Sometimes we still get do. And what do? I lean into my foundation and I make sure I'm dedicated to what I said I would do. When I'm by myself, I make sure I'm dedicated and I commit and follow through to what I said I would do, which is my intention, what I want, why. All that has to come first. Whenever you start falling off, oh shit, I start spending too much. Oh shit, I start complaining. Oh shit, I start scrolling. Oh, I can't sleep. Skirt, whoop, shut out the noise. Sit your ass down. Sit your ass down and go inside instead of external for sure. That's
You
amazing.
just nailed it. This is why what we do when we're alone is most important because the universe wants an intimate relationship with you.
Ooh, banger.
It wants an intimate relationship with me, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it.
Source. Yeah.
Yeah, it wants a very intimate relationship with us. And that's why surrender, Akeem, when you were talking, I was just thinking of a snake because a snake doesn't have any arms, legs, shoulders, hips. It's like pure energy. It's like the symbol of like Kundalini. It's like pure energy, right?
Hmm.
And what does a snake do monthly? It sheds its skin.
Hmm.
It has to reinvent itself and renew itself, right? In order to keep on living. And I feel like with me, the surrender process, and we were talking about this in the women's retreat, like, what's your surrender process? Mine is when I feel like I just messed up and like I have all these emotions coming up, I literally lay on the living room floor with my arms wide open. I allow all the tears to come. I just say, God, I know nothing. You know everything. I'm yours. Take me.
I love
I'm yours.
I love
And
that.
I just surrender to it, you know? And I just like it's just like, "Up, I did it again." Right? Like, I messed up because I'm fallible. I'm a person. I'm groping through life in the dark trying to find my way, you know? And in that process, we trigger each other, we piss each other off, we mess up, we hurt each other, we hurt ourselves, and it's like, these patterns are so much bigger than we think they are. The stuff that our parents gave us and those experiences, if we had an addict as a parent, and this stuff is coming back from deep generational and ancestral pain. It's like in these slow moving waves. And we get it from like parents' divorce or this, that, the other thing. But those are slow moving energy waves of deep pain in the human, in our lineage, right? Our DNA. So if we could break some of those chains, we're freeing our ancestors, we're freeing ourselves, we're freeing future generations. It's like changing humanity, one soul at a time. And then I feel we start to get on our purpose.
Hey, But the Matrix can be fun too, though, y'all. Hey,
You learn how to play the game.
I'm saying I got a liquor company, so I be drinking. I pick a day, and I'm like, I'm going out. I'm staying out late. I'm gonna be drinking. I'm gonna be eating. I'm gonna be smoking. Cool. But then in the morning, guess what? I'm doing what I said. I got up on time. I went to the sauna. I took care of my gut. I got some sleep. I hydrated. I took a shower, and I don't get caught up in it too long. Cause that's the shit, man. Cause it's so fun. Sometimes you forget because it's like, oh, I feel all the things that I want in the Matrix. I feel connected. I feel love. I have fun. I don't feel pain. This is great. But that's not going to last for long. That's the facade. And then you
It's
got to get
illusion.
back to the solitude. Yeah, delusion. Exactly. So you can dabble. Don't depend on it though. Then you can't be independent.
Yeah, just don't get it twisted. If you want to play in the illusion, play in it, right?
Right. It's planned. Right. For
Yeah.
sure.
If you want to play in it, play in it. Look, we're here, right? We're here. I still can't say no to a warm chocolate chip cookie. I drink sometimes. I grew up with drinking around me. When my parents were still together, my father's friends would be over. They would be doing construction in the house or whatever. I would run to every beer can and drink all the suds out of the empties, right? When I was a little kid. Here's a picture of me in a red wagon in a onesie blue pajamas with feet with beer cans in the freezer.
Feeties in your ear.
So, and this, guess how I learned to stop? Some people used to smoke and put out their ashes inside the beer.
That happened to me. My grandpa used a Pepsi can. It was not a beer can, but he used it as like spit can for his chew, and I went to chug it, and it was the most disgusting.
Yo, I was just about to say that. That happened. With me and my boys playing football, everybody chewed, and they built up a red wine bottle over time. All four roommates filled up a wine bottle, and they want to fill it up, and we're just lit playing beer pong, and I go over and I just fucking chug it like I thought it was red wine. It's 4 dudes spit over last month, and I fucking threw up, and I went home.
Can you just tell me what your friends did when they saw you?
It was too late. I spit it all over their house. I fucking went and threw up. They're like, dude, I was like, oh, slimy and shit, chunky.
You know what? You have good friends because we would have been like,
Hey, look, he's chugging it. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
That
so
was
funny.
gross.
I want to rewind a little bit back to when you're okay, because obviously the coaching that you take people through is like a combination of spirituality and meditation. And you were talking about this golden light that you saw, and this is without any type of drugs or anything. This is just like you with your body connected to source, which we've been talking about. And you kind of have to get into you do have to get into solitude to even create that connection. And I love that you said it's your God. It's not my God, it's whoever you believe in. So the guy was walking with Jesus. It could be whoever you believe in. It doesn't have to be a certain religion or whatever. And then going back to what you said about how when our loved ones pass away, it's like they're just in a different dimension. And so I feel this. I feel like I've always known this. And, my dad passed away when I was 23. And then I've had other friends and my grandparents have passed away. And I've never really felt like super like of course I was devastated and it's sad, but I also just had a knowing that they were there with me still. One time you and I were chatting and you were telling us on Instagram about this technique you can do to connect with your loved ones when you go to sleep. Can you share that? Do you remember what I was talking about?
yeah. Yeah, it's in the Suicide Prevention Family Handbook, which is like that little blue book right there. It's on Amazon. And in chapter 3, we talk about how to reconnect with our loved ones emotionally and spiritually that have passed on, right?
Mhm.
No matter how they passed on.
Yeah, because I think it's important for people to understand, like, yes, they're not in the physical, but you can still connect with them. Like, they're here. Energy doesn't die, right? It just transfers.
Right. And when I was 5, my grandfather on my mother's side passed away. And I saw him after he had passed standing in the doorway of our bedroom. And the hall light was on and he was just standing there watching. And I wasn't scared. I was in awe. And from that day forward, I knew there was something more.
Hmm.
Like to everything that we were seeing in waking life, I knew there was something more, you know? And this technique is something I used when my father passed because when I was going to bed, I was getting overwhelmed with crying and anguish. And I was waking up. When I would wake up in the morning, I was waking up in dreams crying, and then I was crying when I was waking up. So the way I started going to sleep was touching the tension, breathing into it, and expressing all of it. And then I was coming back to the mantra, I'm okay here. I would breathe, and I would say, he's okay over there. And then I would breathe, and then I would say, we're all okay. And I would do that for about 10 to 15 minutes. And I've heard from a lot of people that use this technique now that have recently lost loved ones that it was extremely helpful. And what you're doing is you're creating a new neural pathway and you're wiring it into the heart with the touch and the breath. And right before I would pass out, once my body was calm, right before I would pass out, I would say, universe, thank you for John J. Cotter Jr. coming to me in my dreams tonight so I remember them. Now, I used my father's full name. I want to be very specific with the universe. So if you were using that technique, you would thank the universe for your passed on loved one by saying by their full name, coming to you in your dreams tonight so that you remember them, right? You remember the person, you remember the dream. And then I kept a notebook next to me and I would write down all the, the dreams that I would have. Now it's up to like 36 or 37 times that he's come to me. But in my healing process, he would come to me and it was such a profound experience where in the beginning, when he would come into my dreams, I would just start bawling and hugging him. And then the dream would fade away. And then when I could keep it together long enough, right, before I would start crying, I would ask him questions like, what's heaven like? Where do you live now? Like I would realize I was like lucid in the dream.
What'd he say?
So he would look at me as like, dude, you can't say that. And then the dream would just go to blackness and it would be over and I wake up. I'm like, damn it. So I started to learn the rules of engagement. So then I just started going with the flow of the dream, just going flow with the dream. So an example was I was playing in Harlem. My father was a firefighter in Harlem. So I was playing in Harlem football with our kids in the middle of the street. And he used to play with the neighborhood kids all the time when he was working. And I'm playing with our kids. I hear my father's laugh from like across a big avenue. And it was like a group of 5 firefighters walking, right? And he's telling jokes. He was a funny guy. So I ran up kind of next to him and in front of him just to listen to what they were saying. And I just turned around. I said, "Are you John Cotter?" And he said a joke, like something like, "Yeah, who wants to know?" And I was like, I'm your firstborn son." And this was like before he had kids. And then I started talking to him. And then it lasted for about a minute or two. And then I started crying. And then my back was against a brick wall, not in a bad way. And he was just standing in front of me. And then the dream ended. And then I started to get better and better at going with the flow of the dream, where one of my more recent dreams from like 2 years ago, I was like 12 years old. He was coming off of a ship, right? So he was also a U.S. Marine in Vietnam. So it was like, imagine a bunch of guys coming back, a bunch of soldiers coming back from like the Navy from a war, but only it was a ship, like a spaceship. It was everyone was human. It wasn't anything weird like that, but it was like on a different kind of planet. It was more peaceful. It was like a natural environment with a man-made stream with a walkway next to it. And all these soldiers started walking down next to the stream and families were running out to them. And I saw him and we ran towards each other. We hugged each other and we were rolling around in the grass, in the sunlight, and we were laughing. And I just remember seeing his face in grass and then sunlight, his face in grass and sunlight as we were rolling together, as we were embracing this hug. And then we were just laughing. And he was at his state when he was like 28 years old. He was a huge guy. At one point, he was benching 500 pounds, a big, strong firefighter. And he was my hero. And then I just woke up from the dream there, just in a state of like light, love, laughter, reconnecting with him. And my heart was wide open when I woke up. And I was like, holy shit. That was such an amazing reconnective dream, you know? And yeah, so all the ones where he comes to me now, they're not all like that. They're more like I catch messages from some of my younger siblings and they give me some guidance on how to do that, but I kind of go with the flow of the dream more so now.
Yeah.
Do your siblings believe you when you tell them the messages?
Yeah, all my siblings are in different places, meaning like mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, but they've all had spiritual experiences with him. Even my siblings that are, let's say, not so open spiritually.
So do you help people talk to the other side or communicate or connect? Is that
The first time this happened was in 2000. I was doing a one-on-one session with this woman in Marina Del Rey, California, at this Chinese energetic healing clinic that we were putting on. There was like 8 practitioners. We were learning from the Shaolin Grandmaster at the time, and we were putting on a free clinic so we could learn and get better. This woman sits in front of me. She said she's having some heart issue. It's gone undiagnosed. She's been to heart surgeons, experts, and no one could figure out what's going on. And right the second I sat down in front of her, I just felt a ton of anger coming from a male. And I asked it in my mind, "What's your name?" He said, "Kenny." I said, "Who's Kenny?" She's like, "That's my brother who died 6 months ago." I'm like, "Why is he so angry?" He said that He always felt that I was the favorite of our parents. He always hated me. And I said, okay. So then I just started shining light through Kenny, unlocking and releasing his energy from her body, let him express. And that was it. The energy left her. So connecting this life and the past, I would say a lot of people that have come to me, well, maybe like 25%, they recently lost a loved one. And at times I'll hear the loved one's voice. I'll relay a message. Sometimes a nickname will come through like, hey, by any chance, did they ever refer to you like this? And then, things like that. And then it kind of triggers a lot of deeper emotions and deeper sadness to come up, right? It's almost like because now the session's going into a place where they never imagined it could go. And now they're really starting to feel that person. One time the person was like really trauma bonded to the loss and they were really beating themselves up. So we actually played a rock and roll song that was their song. And I was singing part of it with them and they were singing part of it. And then we were moving to it. And that was freeing up the energy, because now we were they were experiencing it in a different way. So yeah, I feel like my work is really tapping into higher frequencies, higher dimensions of myself, and then allowing it to come through the lowest dimension that I live in.
Yeah. You're like a
Right.
channel, essentially.
So that's the way I feel. I feel like when I'm in a retreat, I'm channeling a collective higher power for the group. When I am working one-on-one with somebody, I'm channeling their higher power. I hear it come through in words. I repeat it. They repeat what I just said, and then the tension starts to release from their body, their organs, their DNA, their ancestors, and then they feel like this visceral release.
Mm.
You know, yeah.
So thoughts are channeling. So we all technically channel, but how does that channeling cause someone to kill themselves? Have you ever looked into, that what the last thoughts are of somebody, or like what's the commonality between people who are suicidal or commit suicide?
Yeah. So I feel that's a huge question, right? And I feel like
Well,
when
I
I'm
asked.
100 years old, I still won't be in. What was that?
I'm saying I'm going to a funeral on Sunday of my boy who killed himself last month. Well, he hit somebody in the car, killed them, and then he was happy, he was fine, and then he killed himself, wrote a letter, and so like I'm gonna be around a lot of people on Sunday who are dealing with this trauma and stuff, and there's a bunch of blame going around to who and what and how to handle it, and who was there, who was the real friend, and so just want to learn something I can say like, yo, I just had to do it on podcast. You said, ah,
So
you know.
every soul has their own path, challenges, learnings, and purpose. The day a soul comes here and the day a soul leaves is a contract with the creator. It's traumatic for everyone around it. If you're a parent, right, you know that your body's shaking when when your first child's born, when your second child's born, because you know your reality is changing, life is changing. But when those close to you leave, it is the most traumatic, and it's a function of human DNA and survival. And that's why first responders have so much PTSD, because when someone close to us leaves, the survival in us says, what could I have done better? And that becomes a deep neural pathway that goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and we torment ourselves. What could I have done better? What should I have done? I could have done this. I should have done that. And then we just go down the toilet bowl. So, can we allow every soul to have their own purpose, their own path, their own challenges, and recognize that this life is not the last stop on the soul train? A woman that I coached, her husband was a Navy SEAL that had passed away, and she was tormented for months. And he came to her one night when she was crying herself to sleep. And he said, I took this life as far as I could take it. And now you take your life as far as you can take it. You go forward. You don't let where my road here stopped. You don't let that stop your road. Right. So always coming back to every soul has its own path, its own purpose, its own challenges, its own learnings. Right. Us three of us, we might have learned the pains of suicide ourselves in our own soul at Uranus, at another galaxy, at somewhere else. We don't know. Or it could have been 10 lifetimes ago if we were here and we did that. Maybe every soul does it once. We don't know. Maybe it happens to a soul 10 times. We don't know how a soul learns. We are not privy to the mystery of the way things are and the ways souls evolve. right? All I know is that when a soul drops in and when a soul leaves, in my heart, I know it's a contract with the creator because I've talked to people that have died and have come back and have met authority figures. Not that they sat down with the creator, but they were sitting down with an authority figure that was like, no, it's not your time. Or they said, no, it's not my time to that authority figure and they came back, right? So to me, the mystery is a zillion times bigger than we'll ever know it to be by living in this fishbowl. But if we could just have faith that every soul is on an evolutionary path and every soul is learning, and that, you know what, this place isn't, not only is it not the last stop on the soul train, but this place is kind of shady. Like, this isn't like heaven on earth yet. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'm like, are we in hell? Is this hell? Right? Because this
Depending on
place
how you
can be
think.
hell and it can be heaven based on your perception, right? Based on your emotion, based on your thoughts. This place is like a place where it's whatever we make it to be. And free will has that whole gamut, that whole arc from heaven to hell. And I think the most important thing is that each soul has its own path, its own purpose, its own learning curve, and we just have to surrender to the mystery. And what do we learn from them? Right? Those closest usually can go through a spiritual awakening if you dig deep on where your pain is coming from, because usually when someone close to us leaves, it it uproots core pain from our childhood. It'll uproot pain from our ancestors if you let it.
Yeah.
If you let it. And that's the thing is, do you want to open up your heart enough to reconnect with them with wherever they are? Because can you unconditionally love that soul no matter where they are? Can you let go of that much pain around that soul that when you think about them, you can start to feel their essence, where you and them are one in that unconditional love state? Because that's where you'll reconnect with them just like that.
Yeah, I think, hey, Andrew Huberman said something about time, space, and attachment being the cause of grief. Because without time and space, you know, you're still attached. But time and space makes you dead because you think of, like you said, 3 or 4D. And so if it's not right here, it's gone forever because you don't know what the hell is after that outside of time and space. But I think being able to accept that the time-space continuum and time is an illusion, and all we have is now, and we're connected to everything, and we're everything and we're nothing at the same time, and everybody's journey is different, allows us to really, you know, step back and focus on gratitude. But if it, like you said, if the first thing we do is, what could I have done? Or I wasn't there. Oh, I wonder how he was feeling. I wonder, so much pain. Well, if everything happens for a reason, if you think destiny is already written, and then all of a sudden something happens you don't want to happen, and now that belief is out the window, that's you playing the victim to yourself. You appreciated everything God did, but because it's outside of your expectations, now you disapprove. Now all of a sudden it's bad. Now all of a sudden it's a failure. It's never bad, good, success. It's never a miracle unless it's outside your expectations. If you expected someone who was supposed to die to live, you wouldn't say it's a miracle. You'd say, I knew that happened. But if you expected, oh, I thought they were going to die, and they don't die, you're like, oh, it's a miracle. Either way, it just is what it is. And I think that's the beautiful part about learning about this stuff, is you start to understand about the expansion of the soul, the spirit, the collective conscious, and the universe in its entirety. But also, we running out of resources, y'all, and the universe ain't playing. So if you are not in touch with yourself, somebody got to go. You think about the weak cub in a pack of cubs, the dad gonna eat your ass if you can't get to the nipple, because we have to make sure that the mom is fed and there's enough milk for the strong lions. The polar bear doesn't let the damn baby cub eat the seal. The polar bear eats the seals and tell the cub, don't eat it because I need the milk. So Mother Nature is saying, yo, where are my people who are providing to the growth and to the hunger of the universe of authenticity, of faith, of purity, of belief, of having a vision in something greater than yourself, a belief in something greater than yourself? I don't care what you call it. It could be a damn tree. It could be a family. It could be a legacy. It could be your future self, something that keeps you humble. If you continue to do that, then you have that understanding of, okay, I believe in whatever is to come. But I think that that belief is taken from a lot of people because they don't practice it with consistency, like we talked about. You just practice it when everything's good. Thank you. Thank you, God, for the good stuff. But you don't take them for the bad because you play victim. You don't focus on the growth. If you focused on the growth from the bad, then you'd be thankful for the bad, and it wouldn't be so bad.
So when you love the pain, the bad thing in your life brought up, then you realize like the process of life is just a process of coming home to self-love. So you could either, like even in the Bible, it says, like walk through the valley of death. And I heard some preachers say, like, it doesn't say pitch a tent in it and lay in it. It says walk through it. So for me, the way I live is that when things happen in my life that I quote unquote don't want to happen or I get very upset, right? I love the feelings of the pain. So the pain to me becomes like a 6-month-old puppy dog, right? That's cute, innocent, goofy, that is crying and whimpering, and I pull it in here, and then I open up my heart to it. And if my heart is in like a little bit of shock or it's like getting caught up in the pain, then I command my higher power to love that pain in my body through my heart. And I command the open heart of God to love that pain from deep inside my body, from the inside out, and to shine light through it and to unlock it and release it. Right. So to me, I'm like merging the third dimensional me to the eternal me, the me that's trapped in this bodysuit in the temporary to the eternal me. Right. I'm merging the little me with the big me. And when people pass, the body ultimately is worried about what's going to happen to me. That's why that mantra works over like a month when you're going to sleep and you're waking up with it. I'm okay here. You breathe, you cry, they're okay over there. You breathe, you cry, we're all okay. You breathe, you cry, rinse and repeat, right? Now you're creating a healthy neural pathway that reframes the relationship with that person in your heart. And now you're opening up to a new energetic relationship where you can't physically touch them, but you can actually start to communicate with them when you call them into your dreams. I One big thing that was like a breakthrough for me was also talking to my dad like he was right there, And then the signs were coming back pretty hard. I talk about this one a lot. I took a lot of my father's tools and put them in my garage when he passed. And I was looking for a tool one day, and I'm looking at like a waist level shelf, and the tool that I was looking for fell off on like a 6-foot shelf and hit me in the head, right? So like, you know what I'm saying? It's like
Now,
the universe is amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
When
they
it's
do that, like, your loved ones, whatever, will do that, like, I remember a couple months ago, do you know John Prine, that song that's like did you ever listen to John Prine? He's an old my dad was into super old school country that nobody even listens to, but one of his favorite songs that doesn't play anywhere, like, no one knows it besides me, but it just drops in my head one day, and I was like, "Dad?" Like, why? I haven't heard it in years, but just things like that will happen too, it's like, you gotta just pay attention and notice when those things happen.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool when you're open to it.
A client of mine, her mother had passed, and we started doing a few sessions, and she was going to look at a new apartment, and the apartment was totally cleaned out except for a dresser inside the bedroom, and her mother wore this perfume that she never saw in a store, she never saw anyone else have, and the perfume bottle was sitting right on the dresser by itself, the same bottle that her mother always had. And yeah, so I mean, like the universe always is sending us signs. It's just a matter of being open to them. My father's name, his nickname was Jay. And it was like a week after he passed. And in the clouds, in the sky, all the clouds are in a J. I've never seen it before or since. It was hooks. It was little
Did you
J
take a
hooks.
picture?
I was driving. I was driving on the thruway coming back up from the city. And I was like, "Oh my god." I started counting them. I think I got up to like 17 or 18, and then I just stopped counting. I was just like, yeah. And then it disappeared.
hey, if you're listening to this, man, we all about to go through some shit. It's
Mhm.
coming, regardless. So don't wait to repair your roof in the rain. You got to do the housework. You got to do the deep work when it's 75 and sunny, when you're in the mood to sit in silence, when you have the time to meditate, when you have the time to research and reflect. You got to do that shit because that's where you develop the traits that allow you to push through adversity and walk through the valley of death and not pitch a damn tent, okay? Because it's bears and shit down there and demons and shit you don't want to be by. So make sure you take the time and get into a routine. I highly recommend around your sleep because
Mhm.
like we were talking about, that's the most programmable state. And outside of that, we're consuming something. So find time before and after your sleep to implement systems, reach out to Brett, reach out to freaking coaches, reach out to networks and find out what you can do in those situations in those small amount of times, 30 minutes before and after you sleep. That's one other hour outside of the whole day, that 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after, where you can tap in. Now, I guarantee you're going to want to add time to that space. This is going to allow you to control your emotions throughout the day. Then your day becomes more positive. Then the negative things become more positive. Then you're able to impact people with more value and more purpose and more intention. So take your time. It's preventative action that allows us to really process grief, I feel. A level of awareness comes from that preventative action.
And
Yeah.
one thing I want to share is you're not your thoughts, you're the thing that thinks them. You're not your emotions, you're the thing that feels them. You're not your body, you're the thing that decides how to move it, right? And I'll prove it to you right now. So if we just close our eyes and you just imagine moving your right arm, just imagine moving your right arm in a certain way. So you see it in your head, and then you open your eyes and then you look at your arm and you move it in that certain way, right? Whatever it is. So my question to you is, are you your body or the thing that decides how to move it?
The thing. We're the thing.
What a
The
thing.
thing that decides how to move it, right? So you step back from a little bit from the body. Now the body has hundreds, if not thousands of years of ancestral trauma, karma, pain, and that impacts the fight or flight reaction. So we get freaked out by a lot of stuff that happens. We're easily triggered. When we're triggered, our body hijacks our consciousness.
Mm.
Our pre-programmed reactions hijack our consciousness. How many times do we overreact and we're like, the next day, why did I do that? Why did I say that to them? I love them. Why did I do that? And we, torture ourselves. So to me, and from doing this work in larger and larger groups and retreats, I started to see the rough plumbing that's behind the body, the emotional rough plumbing and the mental rough plumbing, meaning just like in the Matrix, how the plugs go into the body and things like that, we have emotional plugs. That's why shamans will do cord cuttings, because we have cords that we cannot see with our ancestors, our parents, the companies we work for, our ideas and our fears of the future. And we're feeding things energetically through our emotional body. There are things that we can't see that eat it up like food. Okay. So when we go into a depression, we're actually feeding something. And energy, like let's say our behaviors decide, all right, I'm going to stay in bed for 3 extra hours because I'm feeling sad. I'm going to pull the blankets over my head because I don't want to deal with life. Life's not worth living. That's a thought. Why am I here? That's a neural pathway. Now we're starting to feel emotions because emotions are tied to those thoughts. Then when we do it day in and day out, now we're saying, hey, universe, my actions are showing the universe I'm really depressed. Help me feel really depressed, because the subconscious obeys all orders that you give it. The universe obeys all orders. The issue is we're giving it subconsciously. We're not aware that we have an army around us that gets set in motion every time we have a thought or an emotion to carry that out, to carry that thought out. So when we feel depressed more and more, we're calling forth more depression. And often it feels like a sewer plate on our chest, a 100-pound plate right on the center of the breastplate, right here, our sternum. And it's pushing down and it creates tension. And we're like a bug on its back that can't flip over and get our bearings, right? So all of that builds. And at some point, there's a breaking point, right? So when our body feels enough pain, it gets to a certain emotional pain, a mental pain, physical pain threshold, a switch kicks on in our DNA and in our thoughts that says, I got to get out of here. The only way out is, I had this when I was losing custody for my son when he was 3 years old. He was in my arms and I saw myself in a bathtub bleeding out. And I was like, holy shit. And that's when I went to get help. And I got lucky enough. I sat down with a woman that was like an oracle for me, right? And I was used to receiving tough love because my mother's half German and half Italian. She's very wise, very energetic, and very tough. She said the perfect thing for me, right? She said, do you want me to smack the shit out of you? And I was like,
Thanks for asking.
I was like, what? Well, that's what I needed to hear. It snapped me out of my thing, right? And then she talked me through that, you know? She was like, you got too much to do. Number one, for you, for your son, and all the people that you're meant to work with. Too much, right? And for someone else to reflect that. So all of our pain, every piece of emotional pain in any human being and all throughout humanity wants three things. It wants to be seen, heard, and loved.
Yep.
All of our emotional pain wants to be seen, heard, and loved. And often with suicidal ideation, we're not letting those closest to us. We don't have the right therapist near us, the right psychiatrist in our life, whatever it might be. We don't have the person in our life where we can bare our soul so they could see the depths of our pain. Now, if you have a family member or a friend that's going through it, right? I have 5 prompts, and your body language is very important in how you deliver it. You use your left eye, you're looking into their right eye. That tells their brain that you're listening, that they're in charge, and that you're receptive. So your left eye into their right eye, you're leaning forward to your left shoulder slightly, and your left palm is up. It could be up on a table or on your lap, resting. That tells them that you're receptive. And then you ask these 5 prompts. You don't touch your face. You keep your tone very monotone. You lean into their pain with childlike curiosity and compassion. And you ask these questions. You just say, please tell me more. And then you let them talk. Whatever they're saying, it does not matter. They might be projecting on you. You're going to feel defenses coming up, and you're just going to let it go. You're going to breathe into the pain of your own pain, and then you're going to release it. And your mantra in the back of your head is, I love you. You don't say it out loud. You say it in the back of your mind, and your heart starts to open up. So all you're doing is controlling your breathing, saying, I love you in the back of your mind when you're listening. And then you're asking the next prompt, which is, well, the first one is, please tell me more. The next one is, I want to hear everything. Let them talk. Then you say, what's the hardest part to talk about? You let them talk, right? And then you say, what's your biggest fear about that? And you let them talk. And then you say, what does that feel like? And you just let them talk. You don't cut them off ever. I don't care if they're talking for an hour straight. You're just sitting there. You're leaning in. Back of your mind, I love you. You're focusing on breathing into your own tension. Because anytime we hear someone that we love express suicidal ideation, your body goes through a storm of stress. And usually it goes back to you. What can I say? What can I do? Or sometimes if it's a parent, they might say, you shouldn't be feeling that way. You should be feeling this way. I've done so much for you. Shelf all that crap, right? You just ask the 5 prompts. You're releasing all of your own tension, your own stress. The back of your mind is, I love you. At some point, they're going to become more receptive. They might lean in a little bit. And that's when you look to touch both hands. You just put both hands out. They put their hands in your hands. And now you're helping them co-regulate by breathing. And then you bring them in for a hug when your intuition tells you it's time. And then you could whisper in their ear the thought that you've been thinking the entire time. I love you. Now you're helping them reconnect with the spark of love within them. When they're depressed, the spark of love is 1,000,000 miles away. They can't feel it. They don't know how to access it. They're lost in the dark. When they feel it through you and they hear it, right, and they see it, now they can start to reconnect and co-regulate. And that's your gift to them, right? So I recommend anyone that wants to be more empathic and help people release, some of that pain and some of that energy that they can't tell anybody, right? Therapists come to me to get trained in this technique. It's a very powerful technique, right? It's a very, very powerful technique. And the icing on the cake is just teaching them how to co-regulate, right? Touching their own tension, breathing into it, expressing all their emotion, and then commanding their higher power to shine light through it and unlock it and release it, and then melt it all down. And you actually feel it melt down. You start to feel layers of that pain come up and release. And having the knowledge and the practice of that technique, I feel, is like just as important as learning how to walk. This is learning how to emotionally walk, right?
Yeah, damn. Well, thanks for that. Hey, y'all got somebody going through it? Try it out. And this
Yeah.
might say a lot more about me than anybody else, but we're the only ones with hospitals, old people's homes trying to save each other who literally can't fend for themselves, who can't be sufficient. We're talking about species on this earth. Now, we're talking about space on the earth. We're talking about resources on the earth. How many people can we keep alive that don't want to be alive? Who are we to control the soul contract? I don't know. My thing is, can you be your authentic self and inspire people with your own story and your own energy? And for me, that's all I can do. You can reach out to people all around the world. You can pay for your grandma's goddamn medication and this old people's home forever, keep her up till she's 120. But how does that impact the contract? I mean, because every other species, if you old, they just walk off and die. If like my little brother was 6 years old with cancer, if there was no, and he died when he was 6, if there was nobody keeping him alive, he wouldn't even make it past 1. So, like, are we playing with the natural way of the universe by doing this, trying to keep people who don't want to be here? Are we the ones saving the damn gazelle from the crocodile in the wild when we're not even supposed to be there?
It's the way I feel about that is when we clear out our own fear, then we could receive the impulse of the universe to give us the inspiration of the day, of the month, of the year, and we could enact on it because that no voice gets small and the yes voice gets big. And human evolution, we're right in the middle of a really important moment. And you brought up a big question, and I was talking to somebody about this because a lot of people I work with have aging parents that have declining mental faculties, right? And it's a big question mark on how do we handle things. And I feel like every situation has its own nuances and its own path because we're all coming back to source. There's 8 something billion people here. We're all going back to source if it's in the middle and the 8 billion or so are on a wheel and it's spokes going towards source, right? We're all on our own journey going in the same direction, even though it feels like people are going in crazy different directions. We're all going back to source eventually, right? We all get there eventually. So for me, the world is in a shortage of listeners, and that's one of the reasons why suicide's a problem. The world is in a shortage of knowledge on how to handle our emotions and how to express ourselves, and that's another reason why suicide is such a problem, right? And then we're so caught up in the BS with junk mail.
So caught up.
Yeah.
We're
Toxic
junk
too.
mail of not
Toxic
totally the mail coming into our mailbox, but like the junk email, the junk social media, the junk media on our TVs. We're so locked in it. And that's really the biggest trick of the matrix, how to unplug from it. You know what I mean? To get in touch with our authentic nature. So we could be there for ourselves, put the oxygen mask on ourselves, recover, and then put them on those that need it around us.
Yeah. Yeah. But not at the expense of yourself.
Right.
I think people pleasing is a big thing too, because you can't find a way to love yourself. So you go outside of yourself to get love from others, but still leaves you empty, leaves you both empty. So
You bring up such a huge thing. One of the big things that we work on in the retreats is breaking free from the roles we took on in our families of origin. So often, like there'll be one child that tried to help the mom out a lot and do the breakfast for the other kids and like clean up and do the dishes just in hopes to get a little pat on the back, a little extra hug, a little love, but the love never came. But then that child has the same behavior pattern at work, in their family today, right? Of got to do more, do more, do more to hopefully get love. But it's a draining, self-fulfilling prophecy that never works out, right? Because all we're meant to do is love ourselves for who we are. That's it. When we get there to that spot, then things start to fall into place. When we love ourselves for who we are, who and what we are, our good parts, our shortcomings, the good, bad, and the fugly, right? Whatever we got going on, just starting to just sink into it and love it, letting the love come into it. And, I go back to like the light bulb analogy. It's like our body is the bulb, our mind is the filament, and I choose to identify with electricity. My identity is all I am is life force energy, and I know one thing, and that is I am alive.
and if you don't go inward and find out what your authenticity is, you won't be able to truly help people the way you're meant to help people. You'll be helping people the way society or your past told you to. That's like developing a character trying to fit into all these places. Now your character changes depending on where you go. Now you're all fucked up not knowing who you are. But if you develop your character for you, then your opportunities and where you align, you'll be like, oh, I can help that. Boom, I know exactly what I got. Not like, oh, how can I help? What do I do? Now you're confused. You don't know how to help because that ain't you. You've been another character. But if you know who you are, you're like, I don't know how to do that, but I know somebody for that. I know I can't help that. I shouldn't waste my time or your time because you about to die. But I do know I can help by doing this because I know myself. And you start to
And
become more efficient in life.
you just brought up like where we started, I feel with like, know what you want, let go of some of the pain and what does my soul really want? Why did I come to this planet? What would bring me the most joy and why? And then start doing that. And what I found through doing the suicide prevention work is not everyone that has suicidal thoughts is meant to go that way, right? I've had suicidal thoughts. I'm still here, right? More people than you think had a suicidal thought pass by their mind. Thoughts to me, our brain's like an antenna. Thoughts to me pass by through technology, even we pick them up. We pick them up from society. We pick them up from our family. We pick them up energetically. And no one's had more messed up thoughts than me, but only I view it as clouds passing across the sky. And I don't attach to it.
Mm.
Some people, when they have a negative thought, it's like it jumps into that neural pathway rut and it's like, boom, and now you're overwhelmed. Nah,
Mm.
turn right out of that rut,
Right.
breathe,
Yeah.
blow the thought away. Just see it as a cloud passing across the sky and then focus back on what you want and then keep it moving in the flow of what you want.
Breathing's important, man. Go in nature, go buy some water, let the perspective be, bigger than you. Find something that's bigger than you, I think, for sure. Breathing by water, if you're by water, AF talks about nature all the time, but whenever I go to the ocean on my vacations, 'cause I'm in New York City, so it's all man-made shit everywhere. Even this, everything's man-made here, dang it. So it's like you get caught up in the energy frequencies high and you can hear the city buzzing, and then when I go in the ocean, I'm like, damn, we ain't shit. And it makes me feel peaceful because it makes you feel less pressure. Because I'm like, I really am nothing on this planet. When you're so caught up in your life, you're like, shit, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. Oh shit, gotta. And then all of a sudden you go in the ocean, like, oh, that ocean would fuck me up. I would drown for sure in that ocean. I can't control nothing.
Yeah.
So
I love the light bulb analogy that you said. We are all just beings of light, and we have this our pineal glands are literally taking in information all the time from the quantum field and the quantum energy source. So a lot of the time, if you are not someone who normally has, like, I've even had, I would say, really strange thoughts sometimes when I'm driving, like, what would happen if you just drove off this bridge? And I'd be like, I never think like that. Sometimes your thoughts aren't even your own. So you have to be able to identify when it is the people around you too. And if you're in a bad environment around someone or other, like a work environment or whatever, you could be picking up on your coworkers or your family's thoughts that aren't really normally coming to you. So just realize that you are electric. Your thoughts are electric. Your heart is magnetic, and trying to stay into the coherence as often as possible. And getting into nature is one of the best places to do that because you don't have all this 5G energy to kind of messing up your frequency. Like, the more often that you can get in nature around trees and around water with the flow, the better you're gonna feel for sure.
no, I be thinking about that too. I'm like,
Mhm.
when I'm on the train, I'm like, okay, what if this bum comes in here with a sword? What am I gonna do? When if I'm on a tall skyscraper, I'm like, if a plane runs into this building, at what time do I jump? Right before the building hits the ground.
No,
I'm gonna ride the roof. Then when it hits the ground, I'm gonna jump and somehow land on my feet just fine. I don't know. I be going through that shit all the time in New York. I'm like, if a building starts falling, where am I gonna go? In the subway? Oh, I'm gonna probably die in there. Where do I go? In a food truck? Should I call? Should I call my mom first while I'm about to die? That stuff happens all the time because people be dying for no reason here. Sure.
and a lot of our thoughts will also come from the body. Your body's programmed to survive.
Mm.
We see all these different survival situations, like you just said, and your body's always trying to figure out and kicking up these survival thoughts. That's how we made it here all these,
Right.
millions of years. Modern humans, I think, what they say, 200,000 years, but it's closer to like 8 million for human-like beings here. Mammals that kind of look like us. So, that's been hardwired into our DNA, that fight or flight stuff, that always worrying about the worst case scenario stuff. And yeah, to bring it all home, I feel like these two hands are our emotional self-love defibrillators, right? One hand here, one hand on the belly button, just breathing deep and slow, embracing the emotion with your touch and your breath, walking towards everything that you ran from, all that pain, all that emotion, just going right towards it, breathing into it, allowing that breath and the touch to unlock it and release it. And in the back of your mind, having that soft whisper of the universe, I'm okay. And then if emotions come up and the tears are flowing, that's great. That means you're letting go of the pain, right? And then coming back to I'm okay. Right? Finding your mantra. It could be I'm eternal, I'm okay, we're okay, whatever it is, you find it, right? For me, a big one is all I am is life force energy, and I am eternal, and I'm alive. Those are the ones that I play with the most to, let's say, regulate my central nervous system. But before I do that, I always allow open space to express my feelings. That's the number one thing I would love to impart with anyone that ever hears this, right? is to express your feelings as they're coming up. Never bottle it up, always open it up. And right there, that's where you get into a good connection with your inner child. And when you start to do that more regularly, then more joy comes out.
What a
think
great combo.
Yeah, that would just kinda threw me for a loop, though, because I was always like that, where I would express my emotions, like, really quickly without thinking, but then I would always say it in a tone that would, like, piss people off, and then I would get over it immediately, and they're still stuck on my words. I'm like, "Oh, I'm already over it, like, sorry if I hurt your feelings." I just had to get my emotions out. So now I kinda hold back a little bit when I, like, feel something, I'm like, "Oh, I need to make sure I don't say this so I don't, like, say it in a way that's gonna make someone pissed off or something." I don't know.
So here's the deal. Imagine the ones we love, we're playing ping pong with them, right? We're pinging the ball back and forth. That's typically what we do. We're just triggering each other. So your kids, your spouse, your siblings, your parents, we're pushing each other's buttons because each of us are here to help each other enlighten. But
Mhm.
we don't get that message. We don't understand how it works yet. So our kids are gonna push a button that's gonna bring up our anger, our pain. Our parents are gonna say something that's gonna, like, hurt our feelings, but we don't know how to respond to it, right? Because we grew up with them as parents. Our bosses, our coworkers, our siblings, all of it. But we're all just triggering each other. We don't know how to play the game yet, but we're triggering each other. And the way to play the game is, "This conversation is really important to me. I'm gonna take a 5-minute breath break. I'll be right back." You go out and you verbalize your feelings. Because now you put the ping pong paddle down, the ball goes off the table, and the game stops. You hit the pause button, right? And you just go. I usually would take a walk outside, and this was where this became really apparent to me. Many years ago, a family member came to live with me that was going through a really tough time. She was going through an addiction, and I said, "Look, you come live here. The only rule is you can't bring anyone back here from your groups." Well, the first group, she brings a guy over. "Brett, I really wanted this guy to meet you." And I'm like, I was polite to him. And I was like, she asked if they could come in. I'm like, "No, they can't come in, Casey. I told you, can't have visitors yet." So he ended up leaving. And then I went for a jog and I was so pissed off. And I was saying things that I'll not say now. And she brought up an anger that I had towards my mother when I was a kid. And if I were to just unload on her as she just started getting into group, right? And started to get on her healing process, that probably would have set her back further, right? So I got all this out. I realized where it was coming from. And the anger I had towards my mother was from an unconscious manipulation from my father after their divorce. After 2 years, I was 8 years old. We're on a camping trip and I was begging him to come home. And he said, "I would love to come home, but your mother won't let me." From that day forward, I was always angry at my mother, who was, as a young boy growing up, my source of security and unconditional love. And that tweaked all my relationships with women growing forward. And the woman that came to live with me that I was talking about, family member, she triggered all that. She brought it all up and out. So I could have just sat there and fought with her, like, "What the hell are you doing? I told you this was the rule. This is the one thing," right? But I just allowed it to come up. I expressed my emotions. I had the moment of where it came from, right? I looked deep and then I started to realize. And then as I'm realizing, it's all unpacking. So I could come back and I just sat down and I said, "I want to revisit the rule in order for this to move forward. Do you want to stay here? Okay, you do want to stay here. Okay, I want you to stay here too. In order for you to stay here, no one could come back here. You live here with me. You can confide in me. We'll work on the depression that you're going through, all the other stuff. And then you go to group and then you come back. You go to group, you come back. We eat together, right? We live together, right?" So that's, how that, kind of works for me.
Yeah, okay. Noted. Thank you so much. But yeah, we'll wrap it up here. So obviously you were talking about your membership earlier. You have that you do every Monday through Friday with Stephanie, your wife. And then you have all these certifications. So if you're listening and you want to get certified in intuitive trauma recovery, or you want to be a meditation teacher, or you also have the Stress is Gone method, which is your coined term website, stressisgone.com. Then you have retreats. All this stuff will be linked below. Is there anything that you want to, anything else that we can link for the people? You have books available on Amazon and all these things. So yeah.
Yeah, we have 3 books on Amazon. The little one right there is the Suicide Prevention Family Handbook. This helps you help anyone that's going through a deep depression, right? So this is good for mental health professionals and also good for anyone that has a loved one going through a deep, dark depression. Chapter 2 of that book helps anyone that has suicidal ideation, struggling with those thoughts. And chapter 3 is for anyone that's lost a loved one. So it's a great little book right there. The one behind it that says PTSD on it, that's for veterans, first responders. It's called The 3 Keys to Managing PTSD. And then the gold book over there, gold and orange, that's the Stress Is Gone method. That has all of our tools from the breath work to releasing all the core beliefs that are creating chaos in your life, to embody the core beliefs so you could live your destiny, right? So it brings you through that arc of human evolution to get it all done in one lifetime. And you could actually get it
Shit.
done in like 3 months, the arc of that book, and I encourage anybody to go check it out on Amazon. You could look up Brett Cotter and you'll see those 3 books come up.
Yeah, we'll put
And,
them.
just dive into the system. And you don't have to suffer alone.
You don't
There
need
is
to.
no reason to suffer alone. I dive into the pain with you. My coaches that I've certified, they dive in with you. We throw you the life preserver and we gently reel you back in, right? We gently reel you back into a place where you could feel the buoyancy of your own spirit again and you feel the source of self-love inside of you. So I encourage you to do it.
Thanks,
I
Brett.
encourage you to
We
do
all,
it too.
we all got communities, so reach out. Neglection of your ability to be resourceful is your own damn fault.
Yes, so much resources. All right. Well, this was so great. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And until the next episode, make sure if you're listening, I always forget this, make sure that you leave us a review and share on your socials. Tag us at the Choose Your Soul Show and follow Brett Cotter at Stress Is Gone on Instagram as well. All right. Bye-bye.